Alright, today we're going to continue looking at lesson 13 and really review how to write equations from ratio tables. Now if you're watching the recording at home, it's going to be paused and started a lot because we're going to be doing interactive activities in class, but I'll be sure to record the reviews. So right now everybody turn to page 53 in your modules. And on page 53 and 54, there are 4 ratio tables that we didn't get to yesterday. So when I finish explaining the directions, then you can begin, but stay with me. So the first thing you're going to do is add a total column to the tables on parts B and C. So part B, you're going to add this total column. Now be careful. Make sure you're highlighting the key information that they're giving you before putting it in the table to make sure that you have the correct order. And then women to men, and then the total people. For part C, we have trucks and cars to total vehicles. We're not going to use T for total vehicles because that will get confused with the T for trucks. So use V for vehicles. For part D, you do not have to add a total column. So you're only doing the total column on B and C. Then, complete the tables for A, B, C, and D. Okay, here are the correct answers for the 4 tables. We have to be most careful on B because the ratio they stated in the explanation was a different order than on the table. So you needed to be careful with that. So now let's take a look at table A. So everybody should be looking at table A on page 53. And you have your own binders back. Take back your own binders and look at table A. Okay, so we're going to look at the relationships in this table. So if we had to write the relationship for blue to red, remember that I told you the highlighters are going to be so helpful. So if we wanted to write a ratio for the relationship between blue and red, we have blue. What do we have to do to blue to get to the red? Blue to red. Blue, how do I get it to equal red? Everybody? By 4. So blue times 4 equals red. But we're not going to write it that way. 4 blue equals red. If you want to write that on the side, you can.
Should we do that in equations?
So that's what we're writing, equations for the different relationships. Now let's take a look at red to blue. What do I have to do to red to equal blue? I'm dividing it. I'm making it smaller. I don't need as much. Instead of dividing by 4, we can say multiplying by 1/4 because dividing by 4 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/4. Good. But now, take a look at the board. We're going to look at the relationship between blue and the total. So, in a moment, you're going to take a Post-it and put your initials on it. Then you're going to come up to the dry erase board and vote. If you think 5B equals T is the equation for the relationship between blue and total, you put your Post-it there. If you think that the equation for the total to blue is 5T equals B, you put your Post-it in that column. So we'll see where you want to vote. Ready, set, go. All right, it's snowing Post-its. Let's get over it so we have time for more practice. So what did we do to blue to get to the total? What did we do to the blue to get to the total? Right, we multiplied it by 5. So 5B equals T is the correct equation for the relationship of blue to total. Now, LT and CM. What would I have to do to this one to make it correct? What am I doing to the total to get to blue? For my total to blue, what am I doing? I have to go from 5 to 1, 10 to 2. What am I doing?
By 5.
Dividing by 5. What way do we write dividing by 5?
1/5.
Multiply by 1/5. So you have to change that to 1/5. So you can go ahead and write these two in your notes. Okay, write those in your notes. So those are the two equations for the relationship of blue to total. I'll highlight them. Okay, so now for the next table, for part B, oops, that's what we just did. For part B, now on the Post-it, you're going to put your initials again, but, wait please, you are going to write the equation. Two of them. You're going to write the equation so we can find the number of men, and then for the women. So we're not looking at the total, we're only looking at the relationship between the number of men and the number of women. So write two ratios to represent the relationship between the number of men and the number of women. So the way you could look at it is shown down here on the board. What do you have to do to the women to get to the number of men? What do you have to do to the men to equal the number of women? Go. Okay, so what did we have to do? Use your highlighter. What did we do to the women, the number of women, to find the number of men? We took the number of women and multiplied it by 6. So 6 times the number of women equals the men. But now to go from the number of men to the number of women, what did we have to do to the number of men? We're actually dividing it. So dividing it by 6 is the same thing as multiplying it by 1/6, because we don't need as many. So we're taking a fraction of the total number of men. So please write these two equations down on your notes next to B, so you see the equation for the relationship of the number of men to the number of women.